You can't be serious. What's up, YouTube? This is your boy John from Project Ellsworth, and I am back with you today to give you my review of Carl Lindbergh's 2014 film, The Bunnyman Massacre. I hurt my elbow. So this movie begins with a bunch of video clips of old people, dirty kids. There's a pile of dead rabbits and a bunch of people with guns. You basically know right away that nothing good is getting ready to happen here. And you see all of this while the credits are rolling. The movie hasn't even started yet. I got a bad feeling about this one. When the actual movie begins, we get like a side view of a girl sitting on a park bench, very still, I might add, as a school bus is approaching, driving down a dirt road. When the school bus stops, the driver opens up the door, and we see that this girl has blood running down out of her mouth, and her hands are tied behind her back. I told you I had a bad feeling about this. She's dead. And now we see a tall, skinny, well, I'm assuming he's skinny. He's got a bunny suit on. We see a guy in a bloody bunny suit approaching. In one hand, he's got a shotgun, and in the other hand, he's got a chainsaw. Of course, he blows away the bus driver. Then he gets on the bus, faces the children, and starts that chainsaw. It ain't never that easy. They never start on the first pull. Like, ever. Most of those kids get off of that bus. And I'll leave it at that. Hit the title. Unnecessary. So now night falls and we see the bunny wander into a campsite with two tents. One tent is occupied by a couple screwing like rabbits. Did you see what I did there? I know you did. And the other tent is occupied by a girl just laying there asleep. Asleep. So the bunny cuts the tent with the sleeping girl in it, the one who's asleep, cuts the tent open, grabs her by the sleeping bag and drags her out. Then he commences to beating her to death against a rock. I am out of shape. The dude in the other tent says, "I think I heard something." You think you heard something. You think. What are you looking at? And the girl says, "What are you talking about?" Is this whole sequence a sign of things to come? So at this point, the Bunnyman uses his shotgun to blow this guy all over his girlfriend. No, that's too easy. She runs out of the tent and sees her dead friend on the ground, and she just stands there screaming, which of course lets the bunny run up behind her and kill her with a machete. I know I had a machete around here somewhere. So at this point, we're about 10 and a half minutes into this movie. We have like 4 to 6 on-screen murders. We have a dead girl on a bench. We've got a really nice set of boobs. We have 3 different weapons used and buckets of blood. Spitting. Next, we meet a dude named Joe. He's turning his own victims as well as the Bunnyman's victims into beef jerky. Next, we see 4 girls hiking in what appears to be the desert, and then immediately, like the next scene, we see them wandering around in the jungle. I don't know where the hell they are. Joe is like standing on the top of what appears to be like a mountain of rocks, and he's radioing down to Bunnyman to give the location of these 4 girls. Then a whole bunch of slasher movie stuff happens. People run, people die, people are chased by a tall, bloody rabbit carrying a chainsaw. Depending on where you live, you may see that kind of crap every day. It probably is more common than you would think. So this movie falls somewhere in the middle of B horror movies for me. I've definitely seen better B movies, but I've also seen a hell of a lot worse. You look absolutely, ridiculous. As far as the acting goes in this movie, I mean, there are like no recognizable names or faces in here whatsoever. For me, anyway, and I watch a lot of horror movies. The guy, Joe, was portrayed, a couple of the girls were okay. Joe was portrayed by a guy named David Scott. He was alright, I'd say for the most part he was alright, but a little bit of his dialogue, which I guess you really can't blame on him, was a little bit over the top and it was a little bit much to take. As far as Bunnyman goes, he says nothing throughout this entire movie, At one point, he takes his helmet off, or mask helmet, whatever the hell you want to call it. He takes that off to reveal his face, which is kind of gnarly, and I'll get on that in a second. But at that point, I almost thought he was going to say something. Anything. Grunt, moan, laugh, sneeze, something. But he didn't say anything. So now, as far as the Bunnyman's makeup underneath of that mask, it looked, I would say 95% of it looked actually pretty darn good. It was pretty impressive, especially for a B movie. But you could see, like, his eyelids, which clearly, it didn't match the rest of what was going on this dude's head. So I got to give that part of it a little bit of a thumbs down. I would have felt a lot different about it if they just did something with this dude's eyelids. Now, as far as any other CGI or makeup effects go, there's not really a whole lot of effects shown on screen here as far as practical effects go. I mean, there is a lot of blood in this movie. But it's not, you don't see, I mean, it's nothing that I would qualify really as special effects. I mean, there's like a big gash in one girl's leg, and then you see things here and there, but it's not really anything noteworthy. And as far as like CGI goes, there's a bit of like blood splatter CGI sprinkled throughout this movie, but it's silly looking in my opinion, as it normally is. And I just don't think it was necessary. They obviously had tons of blood laying around. Just splatter some of that around and get rid of that CGI crap. There were a couple like really poorly executed kills in this movie with the chainsaw. Like you saw a girl on her knees at one point, and spoiler alert, somebody gets killed with a chainsaw. She's down on her knees and Bunnyman kills her with a chainsaw, but you can clearly see that the chainsaw is simply like on the back of her head. And there's another scene where a girl gets her eye taken out. Spoiler alert again, gets her eye drilled out with like a drill press. But you can see she's laying down and the drill press is just behind her head. It looks pretty awful on screen. Yeah, I'm nitpicky. As far as like the atmosphere and the setting, I thought they were good. A lot of it took place in a house, in a barn, and in Joe's store where he's trying to sell beef jerky to people. Anyway, what it reminded me of, quite honestly, was Wolf Creek. It felt like a low-budget, poor attempt at Wolf Creek to me. Like, even when they were wandering around out in the desert, it felt like a Wolf Creeky type of feel to me. Like, people alone wandering around out there with one guy chasing them with a shotgun. Married all these years, and I still know how to pick up chicks. And as far as the story went, there really wasn't a whole lot of a foundation of a story here at all. I mean, there was like a little tiny bit of a family element among a couple of the girls in the movie. You hear Bunnyman hears voices of what I believe must be his mother, which probably refers back to the original Bunnyman movie, which I haven't seen because that was not available on Prime. But I mean, there really isn't a whole lot to go on here as far as the story goes. It's a psychotic guy in a bunny suit with a chainsaw and a shotgun, and his other buddy with a shotgun, just killing people. And in a movie like this, I really think that that's pretty much all you need. The movie started off pretty ridiculous, and I thought that that was going to be the lane that we would remain in throughout this movie. But at some point, this movie took a very quick turn down a very dark lane. It got pretty serious, still ridiculous, but much more serious. It was very brutal at times. And the character Joe, like I said, the actor did a good enough job as that character, and he can only perform the duties that are asked of him by the writer and the director. So I guess the actor, he did a good enough job. I just was not real crazy about that character. I actually found him to be a bit off-putting at times. And the movie definitely, I don't know if you've seen this, and if you have seen it, let me know in the comment section how you feel about this statement. This movie did not end the way that I expected it to. But to be totally honest with you, I think my biggest complaint about this movie is it felt very, very long. And I think that's because of the pacing. It felt kind of disjointed at times. You're dealing with the Bunny and Joe and 4 girls, and then you're dealing with a few different girls, and then it comes back to the different girls as well as some of the early girls. It just felt like it jumped around a little more than necessary. I mean, that's all well and good if you want to have a few different groups of girls in the movie. Whatever, that probably helps the movie go along. But it just felt like it got to a point where it was a little bit out of sync for me. Baby chick's a nice touch. So I guess the bottom line for me is I didn't think that the Bunnyman Massacre was great, but I certainly don't think that it was terrible. And I do think that it was interesting enough that now I'm curious about the original film as well as the movie that came after this. Those being The Bunnyman and Bunnyman Vengeance. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty silly too. Not as silly as you look right now. So that's it. I'm going to get out of here. Do me a favor and leave me some comments down below and let me know if you guys have watched this movie, the original film, or the sequel to this movie, or all three, and let me know what I have in store when I go back and I watch those other two films. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really like this video and you've been enjoying my content up to this point, please do me a huge personal favor. Click that subscribe button and ring that bell. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Have a kick-ass day. And thank you for watching. Happy Easter, everybody. Later. Happy Easter, brother.